I, Stella Shun, swear to God, that from this day forward, I will never marry Leo Liu. Those were the words she had spoken after he abandoned her on their wedding registration day for another woman. She had become the city's greatest joke. Weeks later, at the grand wedding her family and his had forced upon them, the doors of the cathedral swung open. Her ex-fiancé, Leo, watched from the altar, a smug smile on his face. He was certain she had come crawling back, defeated and ready to submit. Stella entered, a vision in crimson, not white. And on her arm was not her father, but the one man Leo feared and respected above all others, his own uncle, the family's formidable patriarch, Julian Liu. Julian's cool gaze swept over the stunned crowd, his voice a low, possessive rumble that silenced the entire hall. Apologies for the interruption. He tightened his grip on Stella's arm, his eyes locking onto his nephew's, a cold fire within them. I'm just here to collect my fiancé. The morning sun, like a layer of melted honey, streamed through the car window, spilling across Stella Shun's snow-white cheeks. A faint, irrepressible smile played on her lips as her fingertips danced across her phone screen. Leo, she typed, I've landed. I'll be at City Hall in half an hour. Pressing send felt like flipping a switch to a life of happiness. Today was May 20th, a date imbued with special meaning. For this day, she and Leo Liu, a couple who had walked hand in hand from college campus to their engagement, had waited 5 long years. She leaned back against the taxi seat, watching the city blur past, her heart filled with visions of the future. Even the driver sensed her joy, catching her eye in the rearview mirror. Well now, young lady, straight from the airport to City Hall. Someone's eager. Stella's smile deepened. Yes, it's the 20th. We had to book the slot half a month in advance to get it. You young people and your romantic gestures, the driver chuckled. My daughter couldn't get a spot for today, so she's doing it on the 21st. Close enough. Congratulations, miss. You too, Stella replied politely, her heart overflowing with sweetness. But when the taxi pulled up to the curb in front of City Hall, that sweetness began to curdle. Leo hadn't replied. Stella pouted, her anticipation souring into a small flicker of annoyance. She dialed the number she knew by heart. The line rang, and rang, and rang, each tone chipping away at her excitement, replacing it with a strange anxiety. Finally, the call connected. Leo's voice, flat and calm, came through the line, like a stone dropped into a still lake, creating no ripples. Hello? What's up? Stella's grip on her phone tightened. She tried to keep her voice light. Normal. Leo, where are you? I'm already at City Hall. I just got our number. We're in line for. He cut her off, his tone hard. Stella, I can't make it right now. The air seemed to freeze. A lump formed in Stella's throat. What happened? We agreed we were getting married today. Yeah, something came up. We can do it another day. It doesn't really matter which day we get married. It doesn't matter? Those 3 words were like ice-cold needles plunging into her warm heart. The appointment she had fought for, snatched from 1,000 other hopefuls, was so insignificant to him. Just as she was about to demand an explanation, a delicate female voice floated from the other end of the line, laced with a lazy intimacy. Leo, are you on the phone? They're waiting for us downstairs at the hotel for brunch. It was Luna Zhang's voice, the adopted daughter the Liu family had taken in 18 years ago, who had left for overseas 5 years back. She was back? In that instant, Stella's heart plummeted. He had told her he was tired and going to bed early last night. Was it because he was spending the night with another woman? Her knuckles turned white as she clutched the phone. Before she could voice the name, a dial tone buzzed in her ear, abrupt and final, like a cold iron gate slamming shut, cutting off all her words, all her hope. A moment later, her screen lit up with a new text message. The sender was Luna Zhang. Stella, was that you on the phone with Leo just now? I just got back to the country, and he threw me a welcome party yesterday. We drank too much, so he didn't go home. Please don't misunderstand. A second message followed. Want to join us for brunch? The words, though framed as an explanation, were a blatant display of victory. A heavy stone seemed to press down on Stella's chest, squeezing the air from her lungs. She took a deep breath, her fingertips cold but steady as she replied. Send me the address. I'm on my way. She arrived at the Crimson Pavilion, the city's most exclusive dim sum restaurant. Stella stood outside a private room, the ornate wooden door blocking her view, but not the familiar laughter from within. Leo, aren't you and your fiancé supposed to be getting married today? What are you doing having brunch with us? I heard his fiancé booked the appointment half a month ago, dead set on marrying our Leo today. A flippant voice chimed in. Tisk, it's not like Leo loves her. Everyone knows the only person in his heart is our Princess Luna. Then came Luna's feigned shy whisper. Don't talk nonsense. Leo is my brother. Outside the door, the color drained from Stella's face. She stood like a statue, her soul hollowed out, every sense focused on her hearing, waiting for the one man whose response mattered. The door was slightly ajar. She shifted, her gaze finding the narrow gap. She saw him, Leo, lounging casually against the back of his chair, a long arm draped possessively over the back of Luna's seat. From Stella's angle, It looked as if he was tenderly embracing his most cherished love. Then she heard his voice, magnetic and low, each word a poison-tipped blade, slicing her heart to ribbons. Luna, do you really just see me as a brother? Luna's voice held a delicate, hesitant pout. Leo, are you really not going to get married to your fiancé today? No. Leo's voice was laced with an almost imperceptible tenderness. There is no fiancé. He paused, his eyes on Luna's slightly trembling shoulders, his voice growing richer, deeper. Luna, no one is more important than you. His declaration of love ignited a chorus of cheers and applause from inside the room. The noise became the cruel soundtrack to Stella's world collapsing. A dull ache throbbed in her chest. 5 years. 5 whole years of effort and devotion had failed to melt this frozen heart. She had never been his one and only. She wasn't even his priority. How laughable. How pitifully, laughably sad. Just then, someone returning from the restroom pushed the door open and came face to face with the pale, shaken Stella. He froze. Oh, Stella. You're here too, aren't you? Coming in. The door swung wide, and the chatter inside died instantly. All eyes fixed on the woman who should not have been there. The air grew thick with a suffocating, viral awkwardness. Finally, someone forced a laugh to break the tension. Oh, Stella, you're here. Have you eaten? Come on in and join us. Leo slowly retracted his arm from Luna's chair. His brow furrowed slightly, his gaze holding not a shred of guilt, only annoyance at the interruption. What are you doing here? Stella took a deep breath, swallowing the metallic taste of blood at the back of her throat. She walked in, the click of her heels against the floor loud in the dead silence. Leo Lu, am I not allowed to be here? Luna immediately stood, her face a mask of innocence, ready to give up her seat. Stella, you're here? Come sit. I saved a spot for you. Luna, don't move. Leo reached out and pressed down on Luna's shoulder, a tiny gesture that stabbed Stella's heart yet again. That's right. You don't have to move. Stella's gaze swept over them, a sarcastic smile twisting her lips. I'm not here for brunch. Leo's voice dropped, heavy with warning. Stella, what are you trying to do today? I thought we agreed we'd get married another day. We're not, she said softly, her voice quiet but every word crystal clear. Leo looked as if he hadn't heard her. What? Stella inhaled deeply, her face breaking into a smile so brilliant it was almost cruel. I said, we're not getting married. She stared at his suddenly constricted pupils and added, syllable by syllable. You said it yourself, there is no fiancé. So our engagement is hereby cancelled. I'm setting you free. She pulled the appointment slip, now damp with the sweat from her palm, from her fingers. She threw it onto the polished floor like a piece of useless trash. Since she's so important, you can have my appointment at City Hall. Consider it my wedding gift to you both. Stella shun. Leo's anger finally erupted. He lowered his voice to a menacing hiss. Luna just got back. Can't we discuss this at home? Luna, right on cue, put on a panicked expression and tugged at his sleeve. Stella, please don't listen to them. Leo and I are really just brother and sister. Brother and sister? The words were utterly farcical to Stella. She laughed, a sound full of mockery. Hell, what a brother. More like a lover, I'd say. Enough. The veins on Leo's temples throbbed, his face a mask of fury. Stella shun, I want you to apologize to Luna. Right now. Apologize? Stella looked at the pair of siblings, at the entire table of spectators enjoying the show, and the last shred of affection in her heart turned to ash. She slowly raised 3 fingers, meeting Leo's furious gaze, her voice steady and ringing through the room. I, Stella shun, swear to God, that from this day forward, I will never marry Leo Lu. Her gaze was like a knife, stabbing straight into him. And if I break this vow, may Leo Lu die without an heir. The world fell silent. Without another glance at anyone, she turned on her heel, the sound of her heels a firm, decisive retreat, leaving behind a tableau of shock and humiliation. That curse, die without an heir, was a boulder dropped into a stagnant pond. Before the ripples even subsided, Leo Lu's rage had already surged. His deep eyes swirled with a storm as he yanked Stella into his arms, his grip like an iron clamp. His hot breath washed over her ear, thick with an undeniable need for control. Stella shun, do you think you can just discard me whenever you please? Stop this nonsense. It's Grandpa's birthday banquet tonight. You're coming with me to pay your respects. He gave her no chance to resist, simply pulling her rigid body along, past the calculating gazes of his mother and Luna, and into the brilliant lights of the Lu family's ancestral home. The elegant string music, the crisp clinking of glasses, and the perfectly curated smiles on every face wove together a magnificent, cold web. Stella felt like a marionette, dragged forcibly into a grand, fraudulent performance where she was the only actor unwilling to play her part. Her payment was the $1 million he had transferred to her account. At the main table, facing the old patriarch who had always shown her genuine affection, Stella suppressed the turmoil in her heart. She presented her gift and offered the proper birthday wishes. Mr. Lu beamed at them. Like any elder hoping for his grandchildren's happiness, and gently pushed them about setting a date for their marriage registration. Leo's eyelid twitched, terrified the woman beside him would say something outrageous. He quickly interjected, "Grandpa, we'll go in a few days. The day after tomorrow, we'll go right after I get back." Stella scoffed internally. The day after tomorrow? What a joke. Leo seated her at the main table, right next to him. His mother, Catherine Liu, spoke softly to Luna, introducing her. "Luna, you've been away for 5 years, so you might not know. This is your sister-in-law, Stella Shun." Leo's attentiveness immediately followed. Ignoring everyone else, he picked up a glistening prawn, his long fingers deftly peeling the shell. He placed the perfect, lustrous piece of shrimp into Luna's bowl, his voice soft. "Here, Luna, have some shrimp. It's your favorite." The scene was a searing brand on Stella's heart. The atmosphere at the table turned palpably awkward. "Old mister." Liu's eyes narrowed imperceptibly. He turned to his grandson. "Stella, have Leo peel one for you too." Leo had already peeled a second one. Just as his chopsticks were about to lift the morsel, Stella's cool voice drifted across the table, quiet but clear. "That's all right, Grandpa. I'm allergic to seafood. I don't eat shrimp." She met Leo's stunned gaze and added with pointed meaning, "Thank you, but this shrimp should go to my dear sister Luna." Just as the awkwardness was about to solidify into ice, a deep, magnetic voice came from behind them. "What's so amusing? Share it with the rest of us." Stella's heart leaped into her throat, as if seized by a hand. The voice was like aged wine, mellow but with a sharp, hidden edge. She turned stiffly. A tall figure was approaching, dressed in a perfectly tailored dark gray suit. His black shirt was buttoned to the very top, creating an aura of disciplined restraint. His eyes were deep, his features understated, yet they seemed to pierce right through you with the calm of a man who held the power of life and death. "Dad, I'm late." It was the third master of the Liu family, Julian Liu, the most discreet and powerful figure in the city's elite circles. His arrival seemed to press the mute button on the entire banquet hall. Stella was instantly transported back to a summer afternoon when she was 16, a memory that still haunted her. She had mustered all her courage, knocked on what she thought was Leo's door, and, with her head bowed, blurted out, "Leo, I like you." When she looked up, she was met not by Leo, but by a pair of deep, amused eyes, and a man wearing nothing but a towel slung low on his hips, clearly fresh from a shower. "Hello, Uncle," she mumbled now, her head bowed low. Julian pulled out the chair next to his father and sat down, casually rolling up his sleeves. His gaze swept coolly over the table, finally settling on them. "Leo, have you two registered your marriage yet? I came back specifically for your wedding." A sharp clatter echoed as Luna's glass slipped from her hand, shattering on the floor. "Oh, it hurts," she cried out as she bent to pick up the pieces, her fingertip immediately pricked by a shard, welling up with a bead of red blood. "Be careful." Leo reacted as if a switch had been flipped. He lunged to her side, gently taking her bleeding finger, his voice thick with intimate reprimand. "Why are you always so clumsy?" He didn't even glance back at the main table as he addressed his grandfather. "Grandpa, I'm taking Luna to get this bandaged." With that, he gently guided Luna's trembling form and left the banquet hall without a backward glance. He was gone. In front of all their friends and family, at the most important Liu family event, he had abandoned his fiancée, leaving her behind like a piece of old furniture. In that moment, Stella felt as if she'd been stripped naked and thrown into a blizzard. The surrounding gazes of sympathy, pity, and mockery became the biting, freezing wind. The faces of the Liu family elders turned grim. Catherine patted her hand in a gesture of comfort, but the comfort felt more like a constant reminder of her humiliation. Just then, a hand with long, well-defined fingers turned the platter of exquisitely prepared sweet and sour fish to face her. Julian's voice was still even, betraying no emotion. "Eat more fish. I remember you loved fish as a child." His casual tone was like a hand pulling her back from the edge of drowning. She kept her head down and murmured, "Thank you, Uncle." When the banquet ended, Leo and Luna had not returned. Stella rose to leave, and Mr. Liu, with a sigh, asked his youngest son to drive her home. She couldn't refuse and found herself in the back of a black Maybach. The space was vast, yet it felt suffocatingly small with the man beside her. The faint scent of alcohol on him mixed with a cool, woody fragrance, silently colonizing every inch of the air. "Where to?" "The house you and Leo share." His deep voice broke the silence of the car. Stella's heart trembled. To avoid airing their dirty laundry, she simply nodded and gave him the address of a place she had only visited a few times. Lakeside Manor. Julian's face was lost in the shadows, his expression unreadable. He simply instructed the driver, "Lakeside Manor. Let's go." An unnerving silence followed. Stella turned her face to the window, pretending to watch the fleeting streetlights, but she could feel his sharp gaze on her. She finally closed her eyes, leaning against the cool glass to feign sleep. After what felt like an eternity, the car stopped. She opened her eyes to find a light blanket draped over her. The man beside her was wearing headphones, focused on a conference call on his laptop. She quietly unbuckled her seatbelt, mouthed a thank you, and fled the car. Back in the empty villa, Stella didn't pause for a moment. Without even turning on the lights, she picked up her handbag and walked right back out the front door. Standing at the gate, she ordered a car on her phone. The night wind whipped strands of hair across her face, carrying a slight chill. She didn't notice that in the darkness nearby, the Maybach that had dropped her off hadn't left. The window slowly descended, revealing Julian Lou's sharp profile. He raised his wrist, glanced at his watch, and his deep eyes followed her solitary, resolute figure. His lips barely moved as he murmured to himself, "Just got home, and already leaving?" The sharp crack of a slap tore through the air. Sean Shen's palm connected hard with Stella's cheek, the stinging pain spreading instantly from her skin to her heart. The force of the blow snapped her head to the side, a few strands of hair falling to obscure the last flicker of warmth in her eyes. She slowly turned her head back, her gaze unervingly calm as she stared at her so-called father. "Why wouldn't I dare? He doesn't love me, and I don't want to marry him. Is that not allowed?" "Love?" Sean's chest heaved, his voice distorted with rage. "What is love? Is it worth anything? Do you have any idea that your father's company is on the verge of collapse? As long as you marry into the Liu family, we'll be saved." "Then let it go bankrupt," Stella said softly, each word clear. "After it goes bankrupt, I can still support you on my salary." Her words were a dull knife twisting in his gut. Looking at his stubbornly defiant daughter, he finally dropped all pretense. He grabbed his briefcase and stormed out of the house that had long lost its warmth. In the darkness outside, Liu was leaning against his car, a cigarette glowing between his fingers. Seeing her emerge, he stubbed it out. His gaze fell on the distinct red mark on her cheek, and his brow tightened. "Did your father hit you?" He raised a hand to touch the swelling, but Stella slapped it away without hesitation. "None of your business." Her voice was as cold as ice. Leo's eyes darkened, and he suppressed his annoyance. "Get in the car. We're getting married tomorrow. I couldn't give you the 20th, so we'll do it at 13:14. Remembering romantic gestures now? It was too late. Stella's voice was devoid of any emotion. "Leo, there's no need. I told you, we're broken up." Stella shunned. "That's enough." The man's patience finally snapped, fire burning in his eyes. "Luna is my sister. No one will ever replace you. How many times do I have to explain that?" "But she's not your biological sister." Stella's gaze was a scalpel, cutting through all his excuses. "Can you promise me you'll never see her again for the rest of your life?" He looked away. That gesture was the answer. "See? You can't do it," Stella laughed, but the smile never reached her eyes. "And I can't do it either. The very thought of what's in your head disgusts me." Leo's breath hitched. He wrenched open the car door and roughly shoved her into the passenger seat. "Be disgusted all you want, but you want to break up? Impossible." He slammed his foot on the gas, and the car roared into the night like an arrow released from a bow. Back at the villa designated as their marital home, Leo handed her an exquisite gift box. His tone was stiff. "I saw this on my business trip. It's for you." If Stella hadn't just seen on Luna's social media the $4.7 million angel's heart necklace he had bought her as a welcome home gift, she might have thought he'd had a pang of conscience. But now, this jewelry box, worth a few $100,000, felt utterly insulting. She accepted it with a smile. Just as she was about to close the door, Leo impatiently reminded her about getting married tomorrow. Before he could finish, his phone rang, the urgent tone like a summons from death itself. "Hello, Luna." The man's expression changed instantly, his previous irritation replaced by anxiety. "Where are you?" "I'm coming right now, wait for me." He didn't even spare Stella another glance before rushing downstairs. The roar of the car engine quickly faded into the distance. "Marriage? What a joke." Stella stood at the door, listening to the sound recede, the smile on her face slowly freezing over. She felt no anger, no sadness, only an unprecedented calm. She turned, took a photo of the brand-new jewelry box, and sent it to the owner of a luxury consignment shop. Then, she began a complete purge. The bed linens she had personally chosen were stripped from the bed. The scented diffusers she had carefully arranged were tossed into a box. The bottle of body wash that belonged to her was removed from the bathroom. Like a clinical executor, she methodically erased every trace of herself from the house. She then opened the door to Leo's guest room. Opening his closet, she pulled out every shirt, every tie she had ever given him, and packed them all into a suitcase. When she dragged the suitcase downstairs, the housekeeper, Mrs. Liu, stared in shock. "I'm not going on a business trip," Stella said, meeting Mrs. Liu's stunned gaze with a small smile. "I'm moving out. I don't think I'll be coming back." The next day, Stella sold the necklace for $49,000. Standing outside the consignment shop, she looked at her little red car and noticed an ugly dent in the door, along with a note written in elegant script. She dialed the number on the note. Hello, answered on the other end, the familiar, clipped tone instantly recognizable. Uncle Julian." The man on the other end paused for 2 seconds. "Stella, is the red car yours?" At the Crane Garden tea house, Stella saw Julian Liu again. He was wearing only a black shirt, 2 buttons undone, his aura less restrained than the day before, carrying a hint of lazy aggression. He poured her a cup of white tea and asked casually, "Leo said you two were getting married these few days. Is he back from his trip?" "I suppose so," Stella answered, her spirits low. "If Leo bullies you, don't hesitate to tell me." Julian's voice was quiet, but it was like a feather brushing against the softest part of her heart. He added her on a messaging app and transferred her $5,200 with the note for repairs. This sum, more than Leo's perfunctory gift, felt warmer. That night, at the Liu family dinner, Julian casually punctured Leo's lie at the dinner table. "Is Stella on a business trip? But I saw her at the tea house this afternoon." His words were like an invisible slap across Leo's face. Filled with rage and unease, Leo rushed back to the villa, only to be met by a completely empty home. He threw open the door to her guest room. Empty. He rushed to her walk-in closet. Empty. He went back to his own bedroom, pulled open the tie drawer. All the styles she had given him were gone. A huge sense of panic seized his heart. Finally, he pushed open the master bedroom door. The giant wedding photo that had hung on the wall was gone. With trembling hands, he dialed her number. She answered just as the call was about to disconnect. "Stella Shun, why are all the clothes in your room gone? Where are the things you gave me? And the wedding photo, where did you hide it? Why didn't you go get married with me if you weren't on a trip?" he roared, like a caged beast. "And you? Leo Liu, did you go to City Hall?" Her voice on the other end was terrifyingly calm. "As for the photo, I didn't take it. It's in your drawer." A dreadful premonition made him dash to the bedside table and yank open the drawer. It was full of shreds of paper, like a pile of shattered snow. It was their wedding photo, torn into unrecognizable pieces. His face, her smile, all lay in that pile of ruins, mangled beyond recognition. Stella Shun Yu. His eyes were bloodshot, his body trembling with rage. At that moment, Stella was standing before the massive floor-to-ceiling window of a real estate office, looking at her reflection in the glass, a cold smile on her lips. "Angry? What's there to be angry about? The moment you stood me up at our own wedding registration for someone else, you should have been prepared for a breakup. Leo Liu, we were over long ago." In the VIP room of the Zenith Club, dim lights cast an ambiguous, decadent haze over everything. Ice clinked against crystal glasses with a crisp, dull echo, and the potent smell of whiskey mingled with the scent of high-end leather sofas. Leo Liu's eyes were glazed over, his pupils unfocused, reflecting only the toppled landscape of empty bottles on the table. He tilted his head back, the perfect line of his jaw taut, and down the amber liquid in his glass. His throat worked as if he were swallowing endless bitterness. "Easy there, Leo. Did you have a fight with Stella?" Someone next to him ventured cautiously. "Don't mention her name to me." Leo's eyes snapped open, his usually indifferent gaze now shot with blood, like a cornered, enraged animal. "Stella Shun, you ungrateful woman." His breathing grew ragged, his chest heaving with the hurt and disbelief of a man betrayed. "You have no conscience. I told you I would marry you. How could you?" Before he could finish, his head lolled to the side, and he passed out on the sofa, dead to the world. When his friend's call came, Stella was standing in the middle of the living room of the small apartment she had just bought, paid in full. The phone vibrated persistently in her handbag, but she ignored it. She didn't need to guess who was calling, or for whom. She simply looked around the space that was entirely her own. Sunlight streamed through the floor-to-ceiling windows, casting warm patches of light on the floor. When the gilded property deed had been placed in her palm, its substantial weight felt like her long-lost backbone, being pieced back together, vertebra by vertebra. In that moment, she felt truly alive again. With this newfound courage, she went to Shunling Technologies. She had no appointment and was coldly stopped by the receptionist. It wasn't until she made a call to her stepmother, Iris, that she was allowed to pass. She pushed open the door to the CEO's office. Her father, Sean Shun, was buried in paperwork. He looked up, his brow immediately furrowing. "Can't you discuss things at home? I think this is better discussed at the office." Stella pulled out the chair opposite him and pushed a document across the desk. "Dad, I'm here to discuss the termination of the engagement. Leo and I have broken up. You should probably retract the wedding invitations as soon as possible to avoid embarrassment later." "Nonsense." Sean shot to his feet, his hand raised to strike again. But Stella was prepared this time. She took a step back, out of his reach, a cold smile on her face. "Dad, getting hit once was enough. I won't stand for a second slap." Seeing that threats were useless, Sean began to pace, his voice turning cold and cruel. "Stella Shun, think this through. If you dare to call off this marriage, you can pay for your grandmother's nursing home fees yourself. $50,000 a year. Can your little salary afford that?" Stella's blood ran cold. She looked at the man before her, the father who had once lifted her high above his head, now using her beloved grandmother to threaten her. The last bit of warmth in her heart froze solid, replaced by boundless anger and disappointment. "Fine." She heard her own voice, terrifyingly calm. "I'll pay for it. From now on, I'll take care of Grandma myself. I don't need your help." She slammed the door on her way out, shutting her so-called father and his ugly face behind her forever. Meanwhile, Luna Jiang was summoned to the club to pick up the utterly intoxicated Liu Lu. She struggled to get him into a taxi. His large frame collapsed against her, his warm breath, thick with alcohol, fanning across her neck as he mumbled incoherently. Stella, how could you tear up our wedding photo? Stella, you're not behaving. I have to punish you. In the darkness, Luna's eyes grew colder by the second. So, he had drunk himself into a stupor today, all because of that woman, Stella Shun. After leaving her father's company, Stella went straight to the nursing home. The air here was a comforting mix of sunshine and disinfectant. She saw her grandmother, the only person in the world who truly loved her. She hugged her grandmother's frail but warm body, acting like a child again, temporarily sealing away all her grievances. Grandma. After a long chat about daily life, Stella took a deep breath and looked at the old woman seriously. I broke up with Liu Lu. I don't want him anymore. Grandma, I don't want to get married. Can you support my decision? The old woman's cloudy but wise eyes gazed at her granddaughter. After a long moment, she sighed deeply and patted her hand. If you don't want to marry, then don't. Our Stella deserves better. With her grandmother's support, Stella felt as if a heavy weight had been lifted from her shoulders. She buried her head in the old woman's embrace, drawing strength from this hard-won warmth. Just then, there was a soft knock on the door. Ma'am, there's a guest here to see you. He says his last name is Lu. Stella's heart sank, thinking Leo had followed her here. The smile vanished from her lips, her voice turning to ice. I'm not seeing him. But the door was pushed open from the outside. A tall figure walked in, silhouetted against the light. He wasn't wearing a suit, but a dark gray overcoat left casually open, revealing a simple light gray shirt underneath. He exuded the quiet danger of a predator with its claws retracted. His voice, deep and magnetic, held a hint of a smile as it filled the quiet room. Stella, you won't even see me? The air conditioning in the coffee shop was on full blast, but the room was still thick with a cloying, disingenuous sweetness. Luna Jiang sat across from Stella, her innocent, doe-like eyes gazing at her cautiously, as if Stella were a beast on the verge of attack. It was a look that could arouse the protective instincts of any man. Stella, her voice was as soft as a feather. If you're angry with Leo because of me, I can apologize. I'll do anything you want, as long as you can forgive him. Stella nonchalantly lifted her coffee cup, the steam blurring the sarcasm in her eyes. She blew on it gently and took a small sip, the bitter taste spreading across her tongue. And what if I don't want to forgive him? If I don't forgive him, shouldn't you be happy? Luna's eyes immediately reddened, as if she had suffered a great injustice. I'm not. Stella, you can't accuse me like this. In this family, I want you to marry Leo more than anyone. All right. Stella put down her cup with a sharp clack, the sound cutting through Luna's performance. Stop wasting your time on me. I like coffee, not green tea. You should save your saccharine act for Leo. It doesn't work on me. You're just being annoying. Just as she was about to get up, a figure rushed at her from behind. Stella felt a gust of wind, followed by a scalding, bitter-smelling liquid splashing across her chest. The white blouse was instantly soaked with dark brown coffee, clinging to her skin. The searing heat bit through the fabric, and she gasped in pain. The exposed skin on her neck quickly turned an alarming shade of red. Stella Shin, watch your mouth. How dare you bully people like that? Her stepsister, Vivian Shun, stood there fuming, the empty coffee cup still in her hand, defending her best friend. Luna's fleeting smile was so quick it was almost an illusion. It was immediately replaced by a look of deep concern. Stella, are you all right? Vivian, how could you throw coffee at her? Stella took a deep breath, suppressing the knot of pain and anger in her chest. She ignored the two sisters and their little play, speaking calmly to a staff member who had rushed over. Could I have some napkins and a cup of hot water, please? Thank you. Her composure only enraged Vivian more. Just you wait, Stella Shin. I'm going to tell Leo every single word you said today. You just wait for him to deal with you. At that moment, the waiter brought the hot water. Stella looked at the steam rising from the cup, listened to the grating threats, and a cold smile touched her lips. You want a tattle? Is that it? She swiftly picked up the cup of boiling water, her wrist flicking in a clean, decisive motion. The water drew a perfect arc through the air, landing squarely on the two sisters. Then here's some evidence for you. Tattle about this, too. Vivian and Luna shrieked in terror, scrambling to get away, but it was too late. The scalding water splashed onto their exposed collarbones and arms, instantly turning the skin a glaring red. Satisfied with her work, Stella picked up her handbag and, to the soundtrack of their pained screams, turned and walked out, leaving a mess behind her. Outside the coffee shop, the sun beat down like a ball of fire. Stella stood by the road, the stinging pain on her neck intensifying under the heat. She was a mess, trying to hail a cab, but none were in sight. Just then, a short, sharp honk sounded beside her. Beep beep. She looked up. The familiar black Maybach was parked right there. The window rolled down to reveal Julian, Lu's chiseled face. His eyes fell on the mess on her chest and neck, and his deep-set gaze sharpened, his voice turning cold. Who did this to you? Get in. His tone was commanding, leaving no room for argument. I'm taking you to the hospital. In the car, Julian stared at her red neck, his brows knitting together. Does it hurt? His low voice was like a fuse, igniting the emotions Stella had been suppressing for so long. She just felt so wronged, threatened by her father, humiliated by her ex, ambushed by a schemer. She had borne it all, but his simple question, does it hurt, made her defenses crumble. It's your body. If you don't care for it, who will? Julian said, his tone hardening when she didn't answer. His words were a needle, piercing the tough shell she had built around herself. Tears welled up without warning, at first falling silently, then quickly turning into uncontrollable, kitten-like sobs. Julian was completely flustered. He watched her shaking shoulders and tear-streaked face, his heart feeling as if it were being squeezed by a powerful hand. He clumsily pulled a handkerchief from his pocket and gently wiped her tears, his voice softening without him even realizing it, taking on a comforting tone. Don't cry, Stella. I'm sorry. I shouldn't have been harsh with you. Stella's sobs hitched. Hearing his awkward apology made her want to laugh a little. She took the handkerchief, her voice muffled as she explained, I'm not crying because of you. The man's expression instantly darkened again. Then who are you crying for? His eyes narrowed, a dangerous glint in them. Someone threw that on you just now, didn't they? Tell me their name. I'll take care of them. Stella shook her head. It's all right, uncle. I've already gotten my revenge. Julian gave her a long, deep look, but didn't press the matter further. The next day, Leo's call came as expected. Stella was summoned to Apex Entertainment under the pretext of work. She was left to wait in a conference room by his secretary, listening to the office gossip about how Mr. Lou was personally making coffee for his precious little sister. The anger inside her burned hotter and hotter. Losing all patience, she bypassed the secretary and threw open the door to the CEO's office. The scene before her made her sneer. Leo was sitting on the edge of the sofa, a tube of burn cream in his hand, dabbing it with a look of utter heartbreak onto a red mark on Luna's skin that was no bigger than a fingernail. Sorry to interrupt you two getting into bed. Oh, my mistake, applying medicine. She leaned against the doorframe, arms crossed, her voice dripping with undisguised sarcasm. Leo's face turned black as thunder. He put down the cream, his voice laced with frost. Stella shun, I haven't even dealt with you yet. Look what you did. Luna was almost blistered. This is assault, and I'm ordering you to apologize to her right now. Apologize? Stella laughed as if she'd heard the world's greatest joke. Mr. Lou, let me educate you. For a charge of intentional assault to stick, the injury needs to be at least a second-degree minor injury. Why don't you take her for an official diagnosis? I'm afraid if you wait any longer, that little scratch of hers will heal on its own. Oh, and also, the one who starts it is the pathetic one. If your little darling hadn't come to provoke me, none of this would have happened. Why don't you advise her to stay the hell away from me in the future? Luna immediately put on her timid, tearful face. Stella, I know you don't like me. I swear I'll never appear in front of you again. Then swear it. Stella shouted, cutting her off. Swear that if you ever show up in my face again to make your presence known, you'll get breast cysts, uterine fibroids, and ovarian tumors. She then turned to Leo, who was already livid, and offered a sincere suggestion. Why don't you swear too? I've even thought of the oath for you. If you ever bother me again, may you be constipated for 81 days, and then sprout 108 hemorrhoids. May you become impotent, and even if by some miracle you get it up, may it last no more than 3 seconds, not a second longer. After she finished, she looked at the two of them, their faces completely stunned by her tirade, and felt a deep sense of satisfaction. So, I'm such a vicious woman. Asking you to swear an oath to stay away from me isn't too much to ask, is it? Leo was grinding his teeth so hard he might crack them. He could never have imagined that the once docile woman could spew such vulgar, vicious, and yet devastatingly effective words. Stella looked at their faces, which had turned the color of liver, and scoffed, rolling her eyes beautifully. TSK, a pair of cowards. With that, she turned smartly, and, under their stunned gazes, walked out with her head held high. The heavy wooden door closed behind her, sealing away the colorful expressions on Leo Lu's and Luna Zhang's faces, along with the echoes of their satisfyingly bitter argument. Stella's shin straightened her spine, the click of her heels on the polished floor like the sound of marching over the bones of her enemies. She walked out of the office with such triumphant poise that the secretary, Cheryl, stared in disbelief. The wilted flower she expected to see was gone, replaced by a conquering general. It wasn't until the elevator doors slid shut that the adrenaline rush faded, and the suppressed, burning pain on her neck flared up again. Stella leaned against the cool metal wall, a bitter smile on her lips. Leo was blind, but hadn't she been just as blind? Wasting so many years on a hollow love. Long after she left, Leo's office remained silent. He finally snapped out of the stupor induced by that unbelievable 3-second curse. Looking at the tearful Luna beside him, he managed a dry-voiced comfort. Luna, don't be sad. I won't let you be bullied for nothing. This isn't over. He immediately dialed Shanshin's number, unaware that Vivian had already beaten him to it, crying a river in her father's office while recounting Stella's atrocious crimes. Shanshin's fury was fully ignited. After several unanswered calls to his daughter, his face darkened. He called the nursing home, using the excuse of taking his mother home to threaten the director, trying to seize his daughter's lifeline. He didn't even know that the $50,000 his daughter had just paid for her mother's care had been promptly given away by him as a favor. Friday, the Liu family dinner. Under the crystal chandelier, the long dining table was laden with exquisite dishes, but the atmosphere was heavy. Leo brought Luna home, a bandage artfully placed on her collarbone, which immediately drew the concern of the elders. Under the suspicious gaze of his father, Robert Liu, and the questioning of his mother, Catherine, Luna bit her lip pitifully, on the verge of tears. Seeing his sister in such a state, Leo's heart ached. He was just about to blame it all on Stella's viciousness, when Julian Liu appeared, silent as a ghost. He calmly removed his coat, took his seat at the head of the table, and let his gaze sweep over everyone, finally landing on the small bandage on Luna's collarbone. "Oh, where are you hurt, Luna?" he asked casually. Luna's palm tightened. She always felt there was a hidden meaning in her younger uncle's words. "It's nothing, just a little splash of hot water on my collarbone." It's not very noticeable." Julian nodded slightly, then his tone shifted. His voice wasn't loud, but it was like a stone dropped into a calm lake. "Though, Stella's injury is much more serious." His words made Leo's brow furrow sharply. "Uncle, she's the one who threw hot water on Luna. How could she be injured?" Julian's deep eyes stared unwaveringly at his nephew, his gaze calm, but carrying immense pressure. He slowly countered. "Stella is your fiancée. She was injured, and you didn't know?" Silence fell over the dining room. Under old Mr. Liu's probing gaze, Julian put down his chopsticks, elegantly took out his phone, and opened a video. "Dad, take a look." On the screen, a shrill female voice sounded, followed by a full cup of steaming coffee arcing through the air, splashing entirely onto Stella's chest. The video was clear, irrefutable. Anyone could see that Vivian and Luna had started the fight. Julian put away his phone, a faint smile playing on his lips, but his eyes were as cold as ice. "So, Luna, you didn't tell Leo that you were the one who threw the first punch?" Amidst old Mr. Liu's enraged slamming of the table and Robert Liu's stern reprimand, the farce ended with Leo being forced to promise to apologize to Stella, with Luna in tow. He hung his head, reluctantly thanking Julian, only to receive a more soul-crushing reply. An insincere thank you is no thank you at all. That night, back in his bedroom, Leo replayed the image of Stella being splashed with coffee over and over in his mind. After a long hesitation, he finally swallowed his pride and sent her a message. "Is the burn on your neck okay?" However, what popped up on his screen was a cold, red exclamation mark and a line of small text. Message sent, but rejected by the recipient. He had been blocked. The realization sent Leo's heart plummeting to the depths. The air seemed to solidify. Julian Liu's brow lifted slightly, his tone casual, yet it felt like an invisible command that pinned Stella to the spot. All eyes focused on her like searchlights, turning her mind blank. Her colleague, Alex, misunderstood the situation, assuming she was just starstruck by the powerful figure. He enthusiastically stood up, grabbed her by the wrist, and pushed her into the only empty seat, right next to Julian Liu. Stella finally came to her senses. Facing the strange looks from everyone, she could only offer a sheepish explanation. "Sorry, I was just so surprised to see Mr. Liu. Mr. Liu." Julian's long fingers tapped a soft, dull rhythm on the tabletop. He savored the unfamiliar title with amusement, his eyes deep. The manager, Mr. Zhou, immediately sensed the unusual atmosphere and smoothly intervened. "Miss Shun, you know our CEO?" No, not at all." Stella shook her head immediately, like a cat whose tail had been stepped on. "How could I possibly know Mr. Liu?" Her clumsy denial only made the atmosphere in the room more peculiar. Julian leaned back slightly, his posture relaxed against the chair, his voice tinged with a cool edge. "Yes, we certainly don't know each other. How could a lawyer like Miss Shun possibly know me?" Vincent Gao shot his protégé a sharp glare, then raised his glass to smooth things over. "Mr. Liu, Stella might be a bit nervous today. Please don't mind her. Allow me to toast you." But Julian lowered his gaze to the wine glass on the table and spoke faintly. "Apologies, Mr. Gao, but I'm not drinking lately. Perhaps we could have yogurt instead." Everyone exchanged glances. Yogurt at a high-stakes business dinner? It was unheard of. But Mr. Zhou immediately complied. "Waiter, bring us yogurt." Soon, all the liquor was cleared away and replaced with rows of elegantly packaged yogurt. The sweetness of the yogurt created a surreal contrast with the tense atmosphere of the dinner. Julian elegantly tore open the seal, took a sip, and a faint smile touched his lips. Not bad. Today's yogurt is a bit sweet." As he said this, his gaze drifted almost imperceptibly towards Stella, making her wish she could bury her face in her yogurt cup. The meal left Vincent Gao feeling thoroughly satisfied. He felt the atmosphere was harmonious, and the legal contract seemed to be in the bag. After dinner, everyone started calling for drivers. But Julian shook his head. My driver isn't here. I drove myself. His gaze swept over Stella's phone screen as she tried to call a car. It's hard to get a ride here. You can take my car. I'll give you a lift, Miss Shun. Vincent was taken aback and was about to offer to drive her himself, but Julian cut him off with a simple, "Didn't you drink, Mr. Gao?" And so, under the knowing gazes of the others, Stella could only brace herself and follow Julian to his understated but luxurious Maybach. The car's interior was enclosed and quiet, with only the low hum of the engine. Stella sat ramrod straight and was the first to break the silence. Uncle Julian. Not calling me Mr. Liu anymore. Julian replied with a slight, ironic quirk of his lips. Stella was at a loss for words, managing only a small explanation. I don't want to seem like I'm getting special treatment at the firm. He acknowledged, his gaze slowly falling on her cheek as he changed the subject. When did you learn to drink? My first month at the law firm. You really are something else, he gritted out, and the temperature in the car seemed to drop several degrees. The car stopped smoothly in front of her apartment building. Feeling as if she'd been granted a pardon, Stella unbuckled her seatbelt to get out, only to find the door was locked. She looked at the man in the driver's seat, confused. Girls shouldn't drink so much at night. His profile was sharply defined in the dim light. If someone really pressures you, just use Leo's name. Stella couldn't help but laugh. Uncle, his name isn't nearly as useful as yours. The moment the words left her mouth, she regretted them. She heard the man's naturally cool voice, now tinged with a warm hoarseness, sound in her ear. Then use my name, She went to the firm the next day with a whirlwind of emotions, only to receive bad news. A rival lawyer, Matthew Lee, was also vying for the Liu Corporation's contract. The project that had seemed like a sure thing was suddenly uncertain. She had no time to dwell on it, because today she had promised Catherine she would go to the Liu family's main residence for dinner. She decided to use this opportunity to clarify the broken engagement once and for all. In the Liu villa, Leo was waiting impatiently. Ever since he'd been blocked, he'd been in a constant state of agitation. When he saw Stella's car pull into the courtyard, he shot up from his seat. Then, feeling it was too obvious, pretended to casually walk back inside. Stella, not wanting to walk with him, deliberately dawdled, only to look up and see someone even more headache-inducing than Leo. Is Stella waiting for me to go in with her? Julian had appeared beside her at some point, a non-committal smile on his lips. In the living room, Catherine and old Mr. Liu showed her unprecedented warmth and concern. Catherine and old Mr. Liu showed her unprecedented warmth and concern. Under the pressure of the elders, both Leo and Luna reluctantly apologized. Luna even tried to guilt-trip her. Stella, you're so generous, you'll surely forgive me, right? Stella gave a cold laugh and was about to use this chance to lay her cards on the table, but Catherine skillfully interrupted by calling everyone to dinner. After the meal, Catherine sent everyone away and took Stella's hand, launching her charm offensive. Stella, you've been wronged. I genuinely like you from the bottom of my heart. The wedding is so close. Can't you just forgive Leo this once? Please. Aunt Catherine. Stella gently withdrew her hand. I have no intention of marrying him anymore. For the 5 years we were engaged, I kept trying to convince myself that he loved me. I remembered all his preferences. I was willing to be his little shadow. But some things can't be faked. In front of someone else, he remembers every detail without being reminded. For me, he could even forget the wedding date we had booked in advance. Her voice was calm, but filled with endless exhaustion and resolve. Aunt Catherine, I cannot accept a loveless engagement. Shouldn't I be allowed to leave? Catherine's smile froze on her face, eventually turning into a sigh as she played the sympathy card. But Stella, can you give us a little more time? Look, how about we just go through with the wedding ceremony, without registering the marriage, and then tell Grandpa later? Is that okay? Stella's gaze turned completely cold. Aunt Catherine, that's not appropriate. After the ceremony, everyone will think I'm married. Is that fair to a young woman's reputation? Every word was a nail hammered into Catherine's last hope. Stella stood up, looking down at her, and delivered her final ultimatum. At most, I will give you 5 more days. You can figure out how to tell Grandpa yourselves. Otherwise, I won't be showing up at the wedding either. With that, she turned and left without a hint of hesitation. Leo, who had been upstairs searching for a box his mother wanted, came down feeling frustrated, only to find his mother sitting alone on the sofa, looking utterly dejected. Where is she? Catherine shot him a venomous glare, her voice filled with despair. Your wife ran off with someone else. Are you satisfied now? The red car cut through the night, surrounding the Liu family estate like a flowing flame. Stella gripped the steering wheel, the residual heat from her confrontation in the living room still pulsing in her chest. She had won the first round, but she knew it was far from over. True freedom required a foundation of financial independence. Suddenly, she thought of the Liu Corporation's acquisition deal, and of the man who had defended her at the dinner. the man who had made her switch to yogurt. She pulled over to the side of the road, the dim lights spilling onto her car window. She unlocked her phone, tapped on the profile picture that was as deep as a starry sky, and her fingertip hovered over the screen for a long time before finally typing a line. "Uncle, are you staying at the main house tonight?" The reply was almost instantaneous, so fast it made her heart skip a beat. "Why? Are you waiting for me to leave with you?" The short line of text carried a subtle, teasing quality that made her cheeks flush. She took a deep breath to calm herself. "No, I've already left. If it's convenient for you, I can wait for you at the intersection." A minute later, her screen lit up with a single word. "Okay." In the Liu family study, Julian rubbed the screen with his thumb, a barely perceptible smile on his lips. He rose slowly and told his father and older brother, "Dad, big brother, I have something to attend to, so I'll be leaving now. Didn't you say you were staying tonight?" "Old mister." Liu was a little surprised. Julian smiled faintly, his tone as natural as stating a fact. "Not tonight, Dad. I forgot to feed my rabbit at home. I have to go back and feed it." At the intersection, a license plate ending in a series of 8s approached. Stella got out of her car and waved at the black Maybach. The window rolled down, revealing Julian Liu's sharp profile. He motioned for her to get in. After a moment of hesitation, Stella opened the passenger door. The enclosed space was filled with the clean, woody scent that clung to him. "Waited for me specifically?" he asked, raising an eyebrow in amusement. "Uncle, I want to talk to you about the King's Might contract with your company," Stella said, getting straight to the point. But she saw his brow furrow slightly. "You waited for me tonight just to talk about this?" The disappointment in his tone made her heart panic. She quickly explained, "I'm not asking you to pull strings for me. I just hope you can give my boss a fair chance to compete." Julian's dark eyes lifted casually, his gaze sweeping over her crimson lips. His Adam's apple bobbed slightly. "Have you eaten enough? If not, why don't you join me for another bite?" The red and black cars ended up parked outside the Crimson Pavilion. Julian ordered with practiced ease, grouper congee, pear stewed with fritillary bulbs, charcoal grilled short ribs, all her favorites. While they waited for the food, he asked out of the blue, "Since we've discussed business, why not talk about something personal? You said today you want to break off the engagement with Leo." "Yes, I don't plan on marrying him." Since he already knew, Stella admitted it frankly. "You're sure?" "I am." A flicker of determination crossed her eyes. "Good." Julian's voice was light. "I respect your decision. However, since you and Leo are no longer engaged, it's not appropriate for you to call me uncle anymore." Stella's pupils contracted slightly, and her heart sank with them. "Call me Julian," he said, looking at her with a half-smile, like an elegant panther enjoying its prey's confusion. "I'm not that much older than you anyway." "Julian?" The name was like a clap of thunder in her mind. She felt breathless under his intense gaze and hastily made an excuse. "I need to use the restroom." At the sink, the cold water couldn't cool the heat on her face. As she was composing herself, a sharp voice sounded behind her. "Yeah, so it really was you." It was Vivian. Stella instantly regained her composure and sneered. "What? You want another dousing?" Vivian flinched back instinctively, like a cat whose tail had been stepped on, then jutted out her chin. "Stella Shun, don't be so smug. Do you know where Dad went yesterday? He went to the nursing home and brought Grandma home. You better think carefully and be nicer to us from now on." "What?" Stella's eyes widened, a chill shooting up from her feet to the top of her head. Her dear father had actually crossed her final line. She shot Vivian a venomous glare and turned to leave, forgetting even to say goodbye to Julian. She didn't sleep a wink. At 6 in the morning, just as the sky was beginning to lighten, Stella carried a bucket of ice-cold water from the kitchen and went straight upstairs. She first checked on her grandmother, and after receiving a nod of silent approval from the old woman, she wiped the tears from her eyes, leaving only cold fire in her beautiful gaze. Thump, thump, thump. She pounded heavily on the master bedroom door. Irish Joe opened the door, still half asleep. Before she could utter a curse, a bucket of bone-chilling water was poured over her head, making her let out a piercing scream. Stella didn't even look at her, but dumped the remaining half-bucket on the man still sleeping in the bed, her father, Sean Shun. "I'm not crazy, you are." Her voice was like ice. "I said I would pay for Grandma's expenses. What do you mean by bringing her back behind my back? Are you threatening me?" Sean jolted awake from the cold, his face turning purple with rage when he saw his rebellious daughter. He shot up and raised his hand to strike her. But Stella was faster. She grabbed a priceless Qing Dynasty vase from a nearby table, held it high, her eyes resolute. "You dare touch me, and your favorite vase is gone. You dare? If you smash it, you can get out of this house." The veins on Sean's forehead bulged. "Oh, really?" Stella sneered. "Then you better write me a disownment letter right now, or I'll lose all respect for you." Before the words had even faded, the exquisite vase drew a graceful arc through the air and shattered at Sean's feet. The crisp sound of breaking porcelain was like a loud slap across everyone's face. "You." Sean was so heartbroken he could barely breathe. But Stella casually picked up an ancient inkstone from the desk. "This inkstone, isn't it another one of your favorites?" Don't. Sean had just shouted when the heavy inkstone crashed at Iris's feet, sending stone fragments flying. I'm telling you, I'm taking Grandma away today. If you dare to stop me, I will smash every single antique you've collected in this house, one by one, until they're all gone. Want to call me unfilial? Sorry, you were the ones who didn't know the meaning of filial piety first. I'm just following your example. At the breakfast table, the atmosphere was strange and oppressive. Stella calmly served her grandmother congee, while Sean and Iris watched her, their eyes filled with fear. In the end, they compromised. They agreed to send her grandmother back to the nursing home, with Sean covering the costs. However, Sean gritted his teeth, stating his condition. At the wedding at the end of the month, you are not to mention breaking the engagement again. There's no way I'm going to that wedding, Stella said, leisurely sipping her soup. But if you want me to keep my mouth shut, that's fine too. Give me back the 15% of company shares you took from my mother, and from now on, you won't have to be responsible for me or Grandma. In your dreams. Sean almost coughed up blood. Just then, the silent old Mrs. Shin gently put down her bowl, a sharp glint in her cloudy eyes. Stella, dear, it's all right. Grandma still has 5% of the shares. Tomorrow, I'll transfer them to your name. Iris was shocked and shrieked. You can't. Faced with her grandmother's trump card, Stella didn't actually accept it. What she wanted wasn't the shares, but respect and dignity. She watched her stepmother's face twist with jealousy and anger, and a perfect smile curved her lips. So, who's paying for the nursing home then? I am. Iris almost spat the words out through gritted teeth. Her face was ashen as she admitted defeat in the silent standoff. With the drama finally over, Stella joyfully drove her grandmother back to the nursing home, clutching a bank card with $50,000 that Iris had very reluctantly handed over. As the car pulled away from the Shin villa, she saw her stepmother and father shrinking in the rearview mirror, feeling not a shred of attachment. That afternoon, she returned to the law firm. The lingering smoke from her family war barely dissipated before she was thrown into another, quieter battlefield. Her colleague, Alex, lowered his voice like an underground informant. The boss is in the director's office. Matthew Lee is in there too. It sounds like they're fighting over the Liu Corporation contract. Stella's heart tightened. Sure enough, another colleague, Lily, leaned in, her voice even lower. I heard Matthew's team, to snatch the deal, told Liu Corp they'd cut their fee by 5%. The boss is furious. It's blatant, malicious competition, cutting off your nose to spite your face. It turned out that Matthew Lee was acting so boldly because he had connections to their boss Vincent's ex-wife, Fei Gua, who in turn was close to a high-level executive at Liu Corporation. In their world, professional skill was important, but the tangled web of connections was the true invisible hand. Stella's heart sank. She instinctively opened her chat with Julian Liu, her fingertip hovering over the screen, typing and deleting and typing. Dragging Julian into this was against the rules, against her principles. She just stared at his starry profile picture, lost in thought, not even hearing what her colleagues were discussing around her. Time ticked by anxiously, until a line of text suddenly popped up on her screen, striking her like a bolt of lightning. JL, what do you want to say? You've been staring at my chat window for half an hour. Her phone slipped from her hand and clattered to the floor. She scrambled to pick it up, and when she turned it over and saw the screen, her brain shut down. The blood in her veins seemed to freeze. The screen clearly displayed a small line of text. Voice call in progress, 10:37. She had unknowingly been on a call with Julian Liu for over 10 minutes. Helpless, like a child caught doing something wrong, Stella instinctively slammed the red end call button. But as soon as she did, she realized her actions perfectly mirrored the script of a scheming, villainous character from a novel. Making a call on purpose, letting him overhear her predicament, then hanging up abruptly to create a pitiful, damsel in distress illusion. With trembling hands, she typed a message. Julian, I'm so sorry. If I said that was all a coincidence, would you believe me? His reply was almost instant, tinged with amusement. A coincidence? Oh, you mean you just happened to open my chat and stare at it for half an hour, then accidentally dialed my number, and then coincidentally let me overhear your conversation with your colleagues? On the verge of tears, Stella could only stubbornly reply with one word. Yes. Well, that is quite a coincidence. But coincidentally, I happen to be passing by your office building soon. Want to have dinner and chat tonight? Could she say no? No, she couldn't. Dinner was at the Crimson Pavilion again, in the same private room. Julian calmly poured her water, as if the embarrassing phone call from that afternoon had never happened. He didn't mention it, and Stella certainly didn't dare to ask. She ate distractedly. After dinner, she took a taxi home herself. Julian sat in his car and casually dialed his subordinate, Mr. Zhou. That acquisition deal you're handling, have you chosen a law firm yet? His voice betrayed no emotion. On the other end of the line, Mr. Zhou jolted and quickly reported, Mr. Liu, we had initially decided on Kingsmight Law Firm, but two of their partners gave different quotes, so we're still comparing. Julian cut him off. Mr. Zhou, Since when does our group need to consider price quotes when selecting a law firm? The single sentence sent a cold sweat down Mr. Zhou's back. He immediately understood the subtext. Vincent Gao was the one the CEO wanted. Meanwhile, Liu Lu appeared downstairs from Stella's apartment, holding a diamond necklace worth over $500,000. His messages and calls had been blocked, so he resorted to the most primitive method, waiting. Stella. He stopped her as she was coming home from working late. Stella had just picked up a takeout container of her favorite grouper congee. The fragrant aroma of the porridge seemed to turn foul at the sight of Leo's frustrated face. What are you doing here? Not afraid of getting those hemorrhoids? She smiled faintly. Oh wait, it was 108 of them, wasn't it? Stella Shin, have you had enough fun? Leo finally exploded, then tried to suppress his anger, holding out the jewelry box to her. Here, I bought this for you. Are you happy now? Stella looked at him coldly, as if he were a joke. Liu Lu, do you really want to marry me? Do you like me? Do you want to marry me? He avoided her gaze. We're engaged, of course we're getting married. Then after we get married, can you promise me you'll never contact Luna Zhang again? Impossible, Leo answered without a second thought. She's my dearest sister. Exactly, Stella shrugged, the last glimmer of light in her eyes dying out. You don't like me, and you expect me to accept you carrying on with Luna behind my back after we're married. Why should I marry you? Her eyes became incredibly firm as she said, syllable by syllable, Liu Lu, do you understand me? I will not marry you. I would marry a dog before I marry you. She wrenched her wrist from his grasp and went upstairs without looking back, leaving Leo alone, lost and bewildered in the night wind. The next day, as soon as Stella arrived at the firm, she saw her boss, Vincent Gao, beaming as if he'd shed 10 years. Stella, have you had breakfast? If not, go grab something downstairs before you come up. She saw her boss, Vincent Gao, beaming as if he'd shed 10 years. Stella, have you had breakfast? If not, go grab something downstairs before you come up. Lily slid over in her chair, gossiping excitedly. The boss is going to Lu Corporation to sign the contract later. It's done. We got the contract. Stella's heart pounded. So, that dinner, that phone call. He had listened after all. She clutched her phone, and with a heart full of complex emotions, sent a message. Julian, thank you. Just as the message sent, Vincent appeared behind her, looking revitalized. Stella, you're coming with me to Lu Corporation in a bit. Before he finished, Stella's phone screen lit up with a voice call request from JL. Who's JL? Why aren't you answering? Vincent glanced over curiously. Stella panicked, as if burned by a hot iron, and violently hung up the call. Hee, no one, just a telemarketer. So annoying. She glanced at her phone. The person on the other end had sent a large question mark. And in the top-floor CEO's office of Lu Corporation, Julian looked at the disconnected call screen and let out a soft scoff. The office intercom buzzed. It was Mr. Zhou's voice. Mr. Lu, the people from King's Might will be here soon to sign the contract. Will you be attending? Julian put down his phone, a playful curve on his lips, and uttered two soft words. I'll be there. The air in the car was nearly solid. Stella sat in the passenger seat while her boss, Vincent Gao, cleared his throat several times, clearly wanting to say something but not knowing where to start. She, on the other hand, was mentally rehearsing her impending meeting with Julian Lu, each scenario making her heart race. Finally, they both spoke at the same time. Stella, Vincent. She paused, quickly saying, You go first, boss. Vincent coughed twice, trying for a casual tone as he began his sideways interrogation. Stella, I remember you said you broke up with your boyfriend because he cheated on you. Stella hadn't expected him to be so direct. Her eyes darkened for a moment, and she gave a soft Well, how about I introduce you to some guys? Vincent thought he was a genius, showing concern while subtly hinting that Mr. Zhou, the man they were about to sign with, was married. You see, Mr. Zhou's wife was his former colleague. She's a great person. There are plenty of elite men in our industry. Stella was completely lost, but she politely declined. Thank you, boss, but I'm not looking to date right now. Vincent's heart sank. Oh no, the girl hadn't actually fallen for that Zhou fellow, had she? Each lost in their own thoughts, they finally arrived at the Lu Corporation headquarters. The glass skyscraper pierced the clouds, reflecting the cold, imposing light of the sun. Stella made an excuse to go to the restroom, hiding in a stall and staring at Julian Lu's name on her phone. She bit her lip and finally dialed his number, but the call was hung up after just one ring. She had no choice but to send a text. Mr. Lu, I didn't see your call earlier and accidentally hung up. My apologies. She checked it twice. Polite, respectful, flawless. The conference room on the 28th floor was impressively formal. The long table was flanked by people in sharp suits, all with serious expressions. Even Vincent was a bit intimidated by the scene, whispering to her, Don't be nervous. Don't look scared. Stella immediately straightened her back and put on her professional smile. Mr. Zhou warmly introduced the heads of the investment and finance departments, but Stella's gaze was drawn to a solitary thermos at the head of the table. The seat was empty, but the cup was there. Here's the contract, Please take a look, mister, Zoe said with a smile. Our CEO is on a call outside. He'll be here shortly to sign. Just as he finished speaking, the distinct ringtone of a chat app call blared from Stella's pocket. Vincent shot her a look. It was that JL again. He frowned slightly. Why isn't your phone on silent? Excuse me, I need to take this outside. She practically fled the room. She didn't have the courage to hang up on this man for a second time in front of so many people. In the hallway, she took a deep breath and answered the call. Hello, Julian. A deep, magnetic laugh came from the other end. Not calling me Mr. Lou anymore. She was momentarily speechless, unsure how to respond. Where are you? He asked again. In your company's conference room. I just stepped out to take your call. All right, look up. She instinctively raised her eyes and saw a man at the end of the hallway, lowering his phone from his ear. He was backlit, his tall figure outlined in gold, softening his handsome features. He walked towards her with a faint smile and a confident gait. For a moment, Stella was mesmerized. The moment Julian pushed open the conference room door, he became the center of attention. Vincent watched Stella follow closely behind him, his eyelid twitching violently. Why did he feel that the two of them, standing together, looked strangely harmonious, even well-matched? The signing went smoothly. Julian even had a clause added to the contract specifying that Vincent's team would be the sole legal counsel for this acquisition, completely shutting down any internal competition at her firm. Vincent was so thrilled he nearly lost his composure. Stella skillfully declined the celebratory dinner invitation, using the excuse of a court appearance that afternoon. As she walked out of the Lou Corporation building, she let out a long sigh, feeling as if she had just fought a major battle, utterly exhausted from head to toe. Just then, her phone rang. A familiar, lively name flashed on the screen, Zoe Lou. Zoe Lou was the second young lady of the Lou family, Julian's niece, and Stella's best friend. She had been traveling the world for the past 3 months to mend a broken heart, completely unaware of what had been happening back home. Stella briefly explained the breakup. Zoe immediately exploded on the other end. So you broke up? Who cares? There are plenty of fish in the sea. We don't want this one. Just wait till I get back. I'm taking you out tonight to see the sights. As night fell, Stella was dragged by Zoe into a bar with thundering music. The deafening beat pounded against her heart, and the multicolored lights made her dizzy. Zoe waved a grand hand at a row of handsome male models, asking heroically, Well, honey, what do you think? See anyone you like? Stella had been a good girl her whole life and had never witnessed such a scene. She randomly pointed to a boy in the corner who looked the skinniest and most harmless, wearing a simple white t-shirt. Him, I guess. The boy, who claimed to be 19, sat down beside her shyly, his voice as clean as a mountain spring. Miss, let me pour you a drink. Just as she was about to respond, a well-defined arm with prominent veins reached out from behind her without warning. It grabbed the white t-shirt boy by the collar as if he were a kitten and tossed him out of their booth. A man radiating an icy aura looked down at her, his voice thick with suppressed rage. Stella Shun, you like them 19. The alcohol fled her system. She looked up, her eyes wide in shock. Uncle Julian. Julian had one hand in his pocket. With the other, he pulled her up from the booth, his tone frigid. Are you going to walk, or do I have to carry you? In the parking lot, Stella followed behind him with her head down, like a misbehaving schoolgirl. In the enclosed space of the back seat, Julian leaned in close, his scent completely enveloping her. You're getting married in 5 days. I already broke up with him, she retorted, mustering her courage. Oh, really? He pulled back, saying casually. But my father is still joyfully picking out what to wear on the wedding day. You're really not going. Whoever goes is a puppy, she said through gritted teeth. A faint smile finally graced his lips. Understood. I'll handle the rest. If you find it hard to call me by my name, just use it anyway. The next day, Stella went to her father's company again, hoping for one last conversation. But Shanshin just calmly told her that if she went through with the wedding, he would give her another 5% of the company's shares. Stella scoffed and left without a backward glance. After she was gone, Sean's eyes filled with an icy resolve. He picked up the phone and dialed Iris, his voice cold and devoid of any warmth. The wedding is the day after tomorrow. I'll find a way to trick Stella back here. I don't care what you have to do, but I must see her at that wedding.